I was staring at my mother's phone screen when I saw the message that would change everything. Inner Circle Vance, Chloe. Don't let Ellie know this time. She doesn't need the money and will only complicate things. My hands went cold. The device nearly slipped from my grip as the world tilted sideways. I was supposed to be helping my mom set up her banking app on a quiet Tuesday morning. Instead, I had just discovered that my entire family had been plotting behind my back to cut me out of my grandmother's inheritance. $90,000, split between my two sisters. And me, I didn't even make the list. Before we go any further, if you've ever felt invisible in your own family or been taken for granted by the people who should love you most, hit that like button. Subscribe because this story gets even more intense, and drop a comment telling me if you would have done what I did. Trust me, you'll want to hear how this ends. Let me take you back to the beginning to show you exactly how I ended up holding that phone with trembling hands, my entire world cracking open like an egg. My name is Ellie Vance, and for 28 years, I had been the family fixer. While my older sister Chloe raised her 3 kids, and my younger sister Scarlett built her wellness influencer brand. I was the one everyone called when things fell apart. And in the Vance family, things fell apart constantly. It started the weekend after college graduation. My dad called panicking about an IRS letter. 2 hours away, I was elbow deep in his financial chaos, filing amended returns and setting up payment plans. He thanked me with a pat on the shoulder. That's my girl. The pattern was set. Every crisis became mine to solve. Mom's retirement account. Scarlett's unreported $20,000 in Instagram income. Chloe's mortgage refinancing after her husband lost his job. I created spreadsheets, organized tax documents, set up auto payments, and taught my mother how to use online banking 4 separate times because she kept forgetting her passwords. The requests never stopped. Tech support at midnight, photo editing for Scarlett's blog, driving 45 minutes to update mom's phone, explaining 401k rollovers to Chloe, helping with 8th grade algebra because apparently my accounting degree qualified me to teach math. Here's what really killed me though. At every family dinner, every holiday, every birthday, the conversation centered on everyone but me. "Oh, Ellie's here," my mom would say without looking up, then immediately turn back to gushing over Mason's soccer trophy or Scarlett's latest brand partnership. The Thanksgiving after my promotion to audit manager, I finally spoke up. "I got some good news at work this week." My dad nodded at his plate. My mom said, "That's nice, honey," and pivoted instantly. "Scarlett, tell everyone about Bali." My accomplishment evaporated as Scarlett launched into a 20-minute monologue about chakras while I pushed mashed potatoes around my plate. Chloe never even asked what my promotion was. I told myself I didn't mind. I loved my family. I wanted to be useful. Maybe if I kept showing up, kept being indispensable, they'd finally see me as more than the boring middle child who chose accounting over something creative. But the signs were everywhere. Mom's car broke down, and she called Scarlett first, even though Scarlett was 2 hours away and I was 20 minutes out. Chloe only called when she needed something, always starting with, "Hey Ellie, I hope I'm not bothering you, but..." They never visited my new apartment despite multiple invitations. They forgot my birthday until 3 days later. Oh my gosh, things have been crazy. I kept score without realizing it. Every unanswered text, every declined invitation, every forgotten call. I was always available, but they were always too busy. My grandmother, Malene Hartley, was different. A retired librarian who'd saved diligently for 40 years, she lived in a cottage in Bellingham, surrounded by books and her prized garden. I visited her every few weeks for Earl Grey tea and stories. She taught me about compound interest and financial independence. She told me to never rely on anyone else. "Eleanor," she'd say, using my full name. "People who love you show it in their actions, not their words. Pay attention to what people do, not what they say they'll do." I thought she was being cynical. Now I know she was warning me. Grandma actually listened when I talked about work. She remembered details from months ago. "How did that audit turn out? Did you hear back about your certification?" She made me feel seen. When I got my CPA license, she threw me a celebration dinner for 2. Cake from the fancy bakery, champagne, and a toast. "I'm so proud of you, Eleanor. You've built something solid, something that's yours. Don't let anyone take that from you." I didn't realize then that she might have meant my own family. When Grandma Malene died last October, I held my sobbing mother at the funeral, while Chloe's kids ran wild through the church. Mason knocked over a flower arrangement. "Kids will be kids." Chloe shrugged. Scarlett showed up late in all white for spiritual mourning, then spent the reception taking selfies in Grandma's rose garden. Her Instagram caption saying goodbye to my earth angel. Her energy will live on in the flowers. 2,000 likes. I wanted to scream. Instead, I coordinated the reception, managed the caterers, and listened to distant relatives share memories while my sisters stayed glued to their phones. After the service, my mom pulled me aside in the church parking lot. The sky was that heavy Pacific Northwest gray that makes everything feel muted and sad. "Ellie, honey, I need to tell you something about your grandmother's estate." My heart jumped. I thought maybe Grandma had left me something personal, maybe one of her beloved first edition books, or her grandmother's wedding ring that I'd always admired. "She had a trust," my mom continued, her voice careful. "Some money she'd been saving. We'll sort it all out later. It's too much to think about right now." I nodded, still numb with grief. Money was the last thing on my mind. I just wanted my grandmother back. I wanted one more afternoon in her kitchen, one more cup of Earl Grey, one more conversation where someone actually listened to me. "How much?" I asked, not because I cared about the amount, but because I was trying to process what she was telling me. My mom's eyes flickered away. "We'll discuss it later, sweetheart. Let's just get through today." She squeezed my arm and walked away before I could ask anything else. At the time, I thought she was just overwhelmed with grief. Now I know she was buying time to figure out how to cut me out. Months passed. Winter settled over Seattle with its endless rain and early darkness. I threw myself into work, taking on extra clients to avoid thinking about the grandmother-shaped hole in my life. Whenever I asked my mom about the trust, she would get vague. "Oh, honey, the lawyers are still processing everything. You know how slow these things are. I'll let you know when I hear something." By March, I'd asked at least 6 times. Each time, my mom had a different excuse. The lawyers were backed up. There was some paperwork missing. They were waiting on the bank. It was always something. I started to feel like I was being annoying by asking about my own grandmother's estate, and I stopped bringing it up. That's the thing about being the easy child. You learn not to push. You learn not to make waves. You learn that your needs always come last. And while I waited, I kept being the family fixer. In January, my dad called because he had accidentally deleted all his work files and needed me to help him recover them from the cloud. I drove to their house in the middle of a workday, missing an important client meeting, to spend 3 hours explaining how cloud storage works. He didn't thank me. He just got frustrated when I told him he needed to set up 2-factor authentication. "Why does everything have to be so complicated?" he muttered, like it was my fault technology existed. In February, Scarlett asked me to help her organize her receipts for tax season. She had landed a major sponsorship deal worth $45,000 and was terrified of messing up her taxes. I should have been happy for her. Instead, I felt a familiar exhaustion settling into my bones. But I showed up anyway, spending an entire Sunday sorting through her chaotic shoeboxes of receipts, building her a proper bookkeeping system in Excel, and explaining over and over what she needed to track going forward. "Oh my God, Ellie, you're literally saving my life," she gushed, hugging me. "I don't know what I'd do without you." Then the next day, she posted an Instagram story. A photo of herself in meditation pose with the text, "Solo Journey to Financial Wellness, Learning to Trust Myself with the Business Side of My Brand. Growth is uncomfortable but necessary." No mention of the 5 hours I had just spent preventing her from committing tax fraud. No acknowledgement that without me, she'd be facing an IRS audit that would destroy her influencer career. I stared at that post for a long time. Something small and bitter unfurled in my chest, but I pushed it down. She was my little sister. She was just excited about her growth. I was being petty. In March, Chloe called in a panic. It was a Tuesday morning. I was at work in the middle of reviewing a complicated audit file. My phone rang. I almost didn't answer because I was so focused, but I saw Chloe's name and my stomach clenched with the familiar anxiety. What if something was wrong with one of the kids? "Ellie, thank God you picked up." Her voice was frantic. "I just found out Mason needs braces and they're going to cost $8,000. $8,000. We don't have that kind of money just sitting around. I heard there are financial aid programs for orthodontic treatment, but the forms are so confusing. Can you help me fill them out?" Not "how are you," not "is this a good time," just straight into the crisis. I closed my audit file. "Sure, Chloe, can it wait until this evening? I'm at work." "Oh." Her voice cooled slightly. "I thought you had a flexible schedule. Isn't that the whole point of your job?" My job? Like it was something I did for fun, not a career I'd spent 6 years building. I'll come over tonight after work, I said, keeping my voice even. Perfect, come around 6, I'll have the forms ready. You're the best, Ellie. I showed up at 6 with takeout Chinese food because I figured if I was spending my evening doing her paperwork, the least she could do was feed me. She met me at the door with the forms and barely glanced at the food. Oh, we already ate. The kids were starving. You can have the leftovers in the fridge if you want. We sat at her kitchen table and I walked her through every single line of the financial aid application while her kids screamed and ran around us. She got distracted every 5 minutes to break up a fight or answer a text. It took 2 hours. When we finally finished, she smiled at me. You're amazing, Ellie. I seriously don't know how you understand all this stuff. Numbers just make my brain hurt. I drove home that night feeling hollowed out. My Chinese food sat untouched in the passenger seat, cold now. I had skipped dinner, missed my favorite yoga class, and spent 2 hours of my life that I would never get back. Also, my sister could save some money on her son's teeth, and she couldn't even be bothered to save me a plate of spaghetti. But these were small things, right? This is what families do for each other. This is what love looks like. Sacrifice and service, showing up even when it's inconvenient. That's what I told myself every single time. Then came that Tuesday morning in April. The morning everything shattered. My mom had texted me the night before asking if I could stop by to help her download her bank's new app. She had gotten a new phone and couldn't figure out how to set it up. I had a rare morning off, so I agreed. I would drive to their house in Maple Valley, help her with the app, and maybe stay for lunch. It seemed like a normal day. Just another item on the endless list of things Ellie could fix. I arrived at their house around 10. The dogwood trees in their front yard were blooming those perfect white flowers that make everything look like a postcard. My mom greeted me at the door with her usual distracted warmth, handing me her phone immediately. She was still in her bathrobe, her hair uncombed. Oh, Ellie, thank goodness you're here. This thing is driving me crazy. I can't get past the security questions, and then it asks for a code, and I don't know what code, and I'm just so frustrated. I took the phone and sat down at the kitchen table while she went to make coffee. The morning light streamed through their bay window, catching dust motes in the air. Everything was so normal, so familiar. I had sat at this table 1,000 times. I knew the chip in the corner from when Chloe had slammed her textbook down in anger during high school. I knew the coffee stain shaped like Australia from when my dad had spilled his cup 3 years ago. That's when the notification popped up. A text message on the lock screen. I wasn't trying to snoop, I swear. It was just right there, impossible to miss. Inner Circle Vance, Chloe, don't let Ellie know this time. She doesn't need the money and will only complicate things. My stomach dropped like I was on a roller coaster. Inner Circle Vance. What was that? My fingers felt numb. I glanced toward the kitchen. My mom was still fussing with the coffee maker, humming softly to herself, completely oblivious. The sound of her humming suddenly felt sinister, like she was performing normalcy while hiding something monstrous. My hands moved before my brain could catch up. I swiped up on the notification, because my mom had never set up proper security despite me telling her 100 times that she needed the phone unlocked. I tapped into the message thread. And there it was. Everything, the group chat I was never meant to see. It was like opening a door and finding a whole other version of your life behind it. A version where you didn't exist. The group chat name made me feel physically sick. Inner Circle Vance. The members were Chloe, Scarlett, my mom, and my dad. My whole family. Everyone except me. The chat had been created 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks of messages I hadn't seen. 3 weeks of decisions made without me. I scrolled through the messages with shaking hands. My heart was pounding so loud, I was sure my mom would hear it from the kitchen, would come rushing in and catch me. But she didn't. She just kept humming, kept measuring out coffee grounds, completely unaware that my entire world was imploding 15 feet away. The messages started innocuously enough. My dad had written, "Margot, did you hear back from the estate lawyer?" That was 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks they'd all known about this. My mom had replied, "Yes, the trust is ready to distribute. $90,000 total. Malene specified it should go to the 3 girls equally." 3 girls. That meant me. That meant I was supposed to get $30,000. My grandmother had wanted me to have it. She had thought of me. She had planned for my future. For a moment, a warm feeling spread through my chest. Grandma hadn't forgotten me. But then I kept reading and the warmth turned to ice. Chloe's message came next. "Okay, so here's what I'm thinking. 30,000 each, right? But does Ellie really need it? She's got that fancy accounting job. No kids, no major expenses. She's basically set. Scarlett and I actually need this money. My kids' college funds are nowhere near where they should be, and Scarlett's trying to open her yoga studio. This money could actually change our lives. For Ellie, it would just sit in some boring index fund. I stared at the screen, read the message again. She had decided I didn't need my own inheritance because I had been responsible with my life. Because I had chosen a stable career instead of depending on Instagram sponsorships or marrying someone and having kids right away. My responsibility was now being used against me. My dad's response: "That's a good point, Chloe. Ellie's always been the one with her head on straight. She doesn't need a safety net like you girls do." You girls. Like I wasn't his girl too. Like I was something separate, something other. Scarlett chimed in. Honestly, if we give Ellie her share, she'll probably just lecture us about investing it or saving it or something boring like that. You know how she gets with money stuff. And I really, really need this. The yoga studio space I've been looking at requires a $45,000 investment for the first year. If I get 30 from Grandma and can save up the rest, I can finally make my dream happen. This is my whole future we're talking about. My vision was blurring. I couldn't tell if it was tears or rage or both. My mom finally weighed in. "I don't know about this. It feels wrong not to tell Ellie." She was very close with my mother. She visited her all the time, more than either of you actually. For a moment, I felt a flicker of hope. My mom was going to stand up for me. She was going to tell them this was wrong. But then Chloe responded. "Mom, think about it practically. Ellie will be fine. She makes good money. She has savings. She doesn't have kids draining her bank account every month. She doesn't have a business dream on the line. This money won't change her life, but it will change ours. And isn't that what Grandma would have wanted, for the money to go where it's actually needed?" That was the line that killed me, twisting what Grandma would have wanted to justify stealing from me. Grandma, who had written all three of our names into her trust. Grandma, who had been so careful and deliberate with every financial decision she ever made. They were pretending to speak for her while spitting on her wishes. My dad replied, "Chloe's right. Let's be smart about this. The trust distributes next Friday. We can tell the lawyer to split it between Chloe and Scarlett. Ellie never has to know it existed. She won't miss what she didn't know she had." That message was from 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks they'd been planning this. 2 weeks of family dinners and phone calls where they'd acted completely normal while secretly conspiring to rob me. The next messages were logistics, how to tell the lawyer, whether they needed to provide a reason. My mom worried they'd need all 3 beneficiaries to sign off, but Chloe found a loophole. Apparently, as the executor, my mom had discretion over distributions as long as she could justify that it served the beneficiaries' interests. She could argue she was protecting me from complicated family dynamics or some legal nonsense. Then from yesterday, Scarlett wrote, "Is anyone else worried Ellie might find out she's weirdly observant sometimes?" Chloe, how would she find out? We're not going to tell her, and Mom's the executor. As long as we all stay quiet, there's literally no way she'll know. The money hits our accounts Friday, and by the time she asks about Grandma's estate, in like 6 months, we'll just say there wasn't much left after funeral costs and debts. They were planning to lie to my face. For years, forever. My dad agreed. This stays between the 4 of us. Ellie doesn't need to know. It would only hurt her feelings unnecessarily, and she'd probably try to be noble and insist we take her share anyway. The presumption of that statement made me want to throw the phone across the room. They'd decided not only that I didn't deserve the money, but that I was so pathetically nice that I'd give it to them anyway if I knew. They were using my kindness as an excuse to betray me. And then this morning's message. The one that had started it all. Chloe wrote, reminder, "Don't let Ellie know this time. She doesn't need the money and will only complicate things." We're all on the same page, right, Mom? You're meeting with the lawyer Friday at 2 p.m. to finalize the distribution. Dad, you're going to be there too, right? We should all be there to sign whatever needs signing. United front. This time, don't let Ellie know this time. Like there had been other times. Like this was just standard operating procedure. Cut Ellie out and pretend it's for her own good. I sat there with my mother's phone in my hands, reading through the messages again and again, hoping I had misunderstood. Hoping there was some context I was missing, but there wasn't. It was crystal clear. My entire family, every single person I loved and had sacrificed for and shown up for, had gotten together in a secret chat and decided I was too successful to deserve my own inheritance. They had decided my grandmother's wishes didn't matter. They had decided I didn't matter. "Ellie, how's it going with that app?" My mom's voice from the kitchen snapped me back to reality. I could hear her footsteps approaching. Panic flooded my system. I quickly locked the phone and set it down on the table, my hands shaking so badly I had to clasp them in my lap. "It's done, Mom," I called back, surprised at how steady my voice sounded. It was like I had split into two people, the Ellie who was falling apart inside, and the Ellie who could still perform being normal. "The app is all set up. I actually just remembered I have a work call in 30 minutes. I need to head out." My mom emerged from the kitchen carrying 2 mugs of coffee, her face falling in that exaggerated way she had. "Oh, but I was hoping you'd stay for lunch. I made that chicken salad you like, with the grapes and walnuts." The chicken salad I liked. She remembered that. She remembered my favorite lunch, but somehow forgot that I deserved to be treated like a human being. I stood up, grabbing my jacket from the back of the chair. My legs felt unsteady, like I was walking on a ship deck. "Sorry, Mom. Emergency meeting, big client. You know how it is." The lies came so easily. Maybe I'd learned from the best. I kissed her cheek quickly, avoiding her eyes. I was terrified that if I looked at her, she'd see everything. She'd see that I knew. And then what, would she try to explain it away? Would she gaslight me into thinking I'd misunderstood? I couldn't handle that right now. I just needed to get out. "Well, okay, honey, drive safe. Thanks for helping with the phone." She held up the device I'd just been using to uncover her betrayal. "You're always such a lifesaver." I made it to my car before the first sob hit. I sat there in their driveway with my hands gripping the steering wheel, trying to breathe, trying to think, trying to understand what had just happened. But I couldn't breathe. My chest felt like it was caving in. I started the car and drove not back to my apartment, but just drove. I ended up in a random neighborhood 5 miles away, parked in front of someone's house with a yard full of tulips, and I completely broke down. The crying was ugly, the kind where your face gets swollen and you can't catch your breath, and snot is running down your face, and you don't even care. I cried for 30 minutes straight, my whole body shaking with the force of it. I cried for all the years I'd spent being invisible, for all the times I'd driven across the city to help them, for all the birthdays they'd forgotten, for all the accomplishments they'd ignored, for my grandmother who had wanted me to have something and whose wishes were being erased. But mostly I cried because I had been so stupid, so willfully blind. I had convinced myself that if I just helped enough, if I just showed up enough, they would see my value. But they'd seen my value all along. They just didn't care. To them, I was a tool, a useful appliance, something you used when you needed it and forgot about the rest of the time. When the tears finally stopped, I felt weirdly calm. Empty, but calm. Like I'd cried out all the denial, and now I could see clearly for the first time in years. I pulled down the visor mirror and looked at my face. Puffy eyes, red nose, mascara smudged. I looked destroyed. But behind the destruction, I saw something else. A spark of something fierce. I took out my phone, and before I could lose my nerve, I took photos of every single message in that group chat. My hands were still shaking, making the photos slightly blurry, but they were readable. I had evidence. Proof that I wasn't imagining this, that I wasn't being too sensitive or dramatic. It was all there in black and white. Then I drove home to my apartment, that small 1-bedroom in Capitol Hill that I'd moved into 2 years ago. They'd never visited, even though I'd invited them multiple times. "Oh, parking is so hard in that neighborhood," my mom had said. "Maybe when things calm down," Chloe had said. Scarlett had just sent a sad face emoji. I made myself a cup of chamomile tea, my hands finally steady enough to hold the mug. I sat down on my couch and opened my laptop. Not to fix something for my family like I usually did. Not to prepare someone's taxes or troubleshoot someone's tech problem. I was done fixing things for them. Instead, I Googled estate lawyers Seattle. I scrolled through the results looking for someone who seemed competent and aggressive. That's when I remembered Daniel Kim. We'd gone to college together, both business majors, who'd ended up on very different paths. He'd gone to law school while I'd gotten my CPA. We'd kept in touch sporadically over the years, mostly through LinkedIn and the occasional coffee meetup when our schedules aligned. I pulled up our last text exchange from 6 months ago. He'd congratulated me on a work anniversary post I'd made on LinkedIn. I took a deep breath and typed a new message. "Hey Daniel, long time. Are you available for a consultation family trust issue? It's urgent." I hit send and immediately felt my stomach drop. This was real now. I was really doing this. I was going to fight my own family over money. Wasn't that exactly what they'd said I'd do? Wasn't I proving them right by complicating things? No, I shut down that voice. That was the voice they'd trained me to have. The voice that told me to be grateful for scraps. The voice that said keeping the peace was more important than standing up for myself. I was done listening to that voice. Daniel replied within 10 minutes, Ellie. Of course, this sounds serious. Can you come to my office tomorrow morning, 9 a.m.? I'll clear my schedule. I confirmed immediately. Then I sat back against my couch cushions and let out a long, shaky breath. Tomorrow, I would start fighting back. Tonight, I just needed to survive the knowledge that my family had betrayed me in the worst possible way. I couldn't eat dinner, couldn't focus on TV, couldn't read. I just sat there replaying moments from the past few years, seeing them all through this new lens. The time Chloe had called me at midnight to help her with a financial aid form that was due the next morning, and I'd stayed up until 3 a.m., walking her through it, and she'd never even thanked me. The time Scarlett had asked me to shoot photos for her wellness retreat because she couldn't afford a real photographer, and I'd spent an entire weekend working for free, and she'd later complained to our mom that the photos weren't professional enough for her brand. The time my dad had called me away from a date to help him reset his email password, and when I'd mentioned I was on a date, he'd said, "Well, you're here now, so it couldn't have been going that well." Every memory was tainted now. Every act of service reframed as exploitation. They hadn't been grateful for my help. They'd been entitled to it. And when I'd asked for nothing in return except basic respect and inclusion, they'd decided even that was too much to give me. I finally fell asleep around 2 a.m. My dreams chaotic and stressful. I kept finding myself in rooms full of people who couldn't see me talking about me like I wasn't there. The next morning, I woke up exhausted but determined. I dressed carefully for my meeting with Daniel, choosing my most professional outfit. A gray pencil skirt, a crisp white blouse, my good blazer. I wanted to look like someone who meant business, someone who wasn't going to be pushed around anymore. Daniel's office was in a sleek building downtown, all glass and steel, and expensive modern furniture. The receptionist directed me to a conference room on the 15th floor with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Daniel walked in a moment later, and I was struck by how much he'd changed since college. He'd always been confident, but now he carried himself with the kind of authority that comes from winning difficult battles. He greeted me with a warm hug, then his expression turned serious. "Okay, Ellie, tell me everything. Don't leave anything out." So I did. I told him about my grandmother, about the group chat, about years of being taken for granted. I showed him the photos of the messages on my phone. He listened without interrupting, his expression growing darker with each detail I revealed. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment. "Ellie," he finally said, his voice careful. "This isn't just unethical. If you're a named beneficiary in that trust, and your mother is trying to exclude you as executor, she's breaching her fiduciary duty. That's legally actionable." The word illegal hung in the air between us. I felt a grim sort of vindication. "What can we do?" Daniel pulled out a legal pad and started writing. "First, we need to see the actual trust documents. You have every legal right to review them as a potential beneficiary. I'm going to draft a formal request for you to send to your mother and to the estate lawyer. We need those documents by end of business tomorrow at the latest. If the distribution is scheduled for Friday, we're already cutting it close. What if they refuse?" "They can't. Well, they can try, but then we escalate. We can petition the probate court for access, but that takes time and we don't have time. The threat of court action will usually be enough to make them comply." We spent the next hour crafting the perfect email. Formal but not aggressive. Clear about my rights without being threatening. Daniel helped me find the estate lawyer's contact information through public records. By noon, I had 2 emails ready to send. One to my mother, one to the lawyer. I stared at the send button for a long time. My finger hovered over it. This was the point of no return. Once I sent these emails, there would be no pretending this hadn't happened. No sweeping it under the rug. No protecting the family peace. I would be the one breaking the family apart, at least in their eyes. But they'd broken it first, hadn't they? They'd broken it when they created a group chat without me. When they'd decided my grandmother's wishes didn't matter. When they'd spent 3 weeks plotting behind my back. I hit send on both emails. The response from my mother came within an hour. I was sitting in Daniel's conference room when my phone buzzed. My hands were shaking as I opened it. "Ellie, honey, why are you asking about this through email? This isn't like you. Can we just talk on Sunday? Come over for dinner and we'll discuss everything face to face. Love, Mom." I showed Daniel the response. He frowned. "That's a delaying tactic. Sunday is after the distribution. She's trying to stall you until the money's already gone, and the situation is much more complicated to unravel. So what do I do? Send another email. Right now. Be firm. Tell her you need the documents by end of business tomorrow, or you'll be forced to take legal action. Don't let her pull you into a Sunday dinner ambush where they'll all gang up on you and try to make you the bad guy. My stomach churned. The thought of escalating this made me feel sick. But I thought about that group chat, about Inner Circle Vance, about how easily they'd decided to erase me. I let Daniel help me craft another email. This one was shorter and firmer. I hit send before I could second-guess myself. What happened next was chaos. My phone started blowing up immediately. First a text from Chloe. "Ellie, what the hell? Why are you harassing Mom with lawyers? You know she gets confused about financial stuff. Are you seriously doing this right now? Are you okay? This seems really out of character for you." The gaslighting was so blatant, it would have been funny if it wasn't so painful. I was the one who'd been managing Mom's financial stuff for years. Mom wasn't confused. She was complicit. I didn't respond. Then a call from my dad. I let it go to voicemail. He left a message, his voice tight with anger. "Ellie, your mother is very upset. I don't know what's gotten into you, but this is not how we handle family matters. You're acting like a stranger. Call me back immediately so we can talk about this like adults." Like adults. Rich coming from a man who'd joined a secret group chat to plot stealing from his daughter. Another text from Chloe. "Seriously, Ellie, you're scaring us. Is this about money? Because if you need money, you can just ask like a normal person instead of threatening Mom with lawyers. We're family." I stared at that message for a long time. The sheer audacity of it. They were the ones who'd been secretly dividing up inheritance money without me, but I was the one acting inappropriately by asking to see legal documents I had every right to see. Daniel saw me spiraling. "Ellie, you need to block their numbers. All of them. At least for now. Let me handle all communication while we're in legal mode. This is emotional warfare, and they're experts at it because they've been doing it to you your whole life. Don't let them pull you back in." Block my own family. The words felt impossible. "Isn't that extreme?" "Is it extreme?" Daniel said gently. "Or is it the bare minimum of self-protection they're trying to manipulate you into backing down? Every text, every call, every guilt trip is designed to make you feel like you're the problem. You're not the problem, Ellie. They are." I thought about that for a moment. About how I'd spent my entire life being the easy one. The one who didn't make waves. The one who always backed down. Maybe it was time to be difficult. I blocked all 4 of them. My mom, my dad, Chloe, Scarlett. My entire family gone from my phone with a few taps. It felt terrifying and liberating at the same time. "Good," Daniel said. "Now we wait for the estate lawyer to respond. In the meantime, I want you to document everything. Every time you've helped them, every favor you've done, every hour you've spent fixing their problems. We may need it." I went home that afternoon and opened a new document on my laptop. I titled it Services Rendered. Then I started listing everything I could remember. Every tax return I'd filed for my dad. Every tech issue I'd solved for my mom. Every financial aid form I'd filled out for Chloe. Every time I'd edited photos for Scarlett. The list grew and grew until it was 3 pages long. Years of unpaid labor right there in black and white. The estate lawyer responded late that evening. His email was curt but professional. He confirmed that yes, Eleanor Jane Vance was listed as one of 3 equal beneficiaries in Malene Hartley's trust. He attached the trust document as a PDF. However, he noted that he had recently received new instructions from Margot Vance, as executor, to redistribute the funds to only 2 beneficiaries. He had understood this to be an agreed-upon family decision. Given that there now appeared to be a dispute, he was putting a hold on the distribution until the matter could be resolved. He suggested family mediation. I opened the PDF with shaking hands. The trust document was 20 pages of legal language, but there on page 7 was a section in my grandmother's handwriting. She'd added a codicil 5 years ago, updating the distribution instructions. The trust fund, totaling approximately $90,000, shall be divided equally among my 3 granddaughters, Chloe Marie Vance, Eleanor Jane Vance, and Scarlett Rose Vance. It is my hope that this money will provide them with opportunities to pursue their dreams, whatever those may be. I want each of them to know that they are valued and loved equally. Eleanor has always been responsible with money, and I trust she will use her share wisely. Chloe has a beautiful family that brings her joy, and I hope this helps secure their future. Scarlett has a creative spirit that deserves to be nurtured. I am proud of all 3 of my granddaughters, and I want them to know that my love is not divided, but multiplied among them. I had to stop reading because I was crying too hard to see the screen. My grandmother had thought of me. She had specifically mentioned me. She had wanted me to know I was valued. And my family had decided her words meant nothing. I forwarded the document to Daniel. He called me 5 minutes later. Ellie, this is airtight. Your grandmother's intentions couldn't be clearer. Your mother is blatantly violating the terms of the trust. We can stop this distribution and force them to honor the original terms. But I need to know, how far are you willing to go? This is going to get uglier before it gets better. I thought about my grandmother's words. I am proud of all 3 of my granddaughters. She'd been proud of me. She'd valued me, even if my immediate family didn't. As far as it takes, I said. I'm not backing down. Daniel went into full lawyer mode. He worked through the night drafting documents. By morning, he'd sent a comprehensive cease and desist letter to both my mother and the estate lawyer. The letter detailed how Margot Vance was breaching her fiduciary duty as executor. It demanded that the original distribution terms be honored, $30,000 to each of the 3 granddaughters. And then the part that made my stomach flip, it demanded an additional $5,000 to cover legal fees and compensatory damages for emotional distress and reputational harm. Reputational harm, I asked Daniel when he walked me through the letter. They tried to cut you out of your rightful inheritance and keep it secret. That's defamation of your character. Plus, if any of this becomes public, you're the one who'll be seen as money-hungry for fighting back even though you're the victim. That's harm to your reputation. We're making sure they understand there are consequences. The letter concluded with a deadline. They had 24 hours to agree to the terms, or we would file a formal complaint with the probate court. That would make everything public record. It would air all their dirty laundry for the world to see. I stared at the letter on Daniel's computer screen. This is really happening. I'm really suing my own family. You're not suing them, Daniel corrected. You're enforcing your legal rights. There's a difference. They're the ones who created this situation. You're just refusing to be a doormat anymore. The next 24 hours were the longest of my life. I kept my phone off, not wanting to see whatever messages were getting blocked. Daniel had instructed me not to engage with them at all. Let the lawyers handle it. Stay out of the emotional warfare. But my mind wouldn't stop spinning. I kept imagining different scenarios. Maybe they'd realize they were wrong and apologize. Maybe they'd agree to split the money equally and we could move past this. Maybe we could still be a family. Some part of me was still desperately hoping for that outcome. That hope died when Daniel called me the next evening. I just got off the phone with your mother's lawyer. She hired one this morning. What did they say? Daniel's voice was tight with anger. They're refusing the settlement. They're claiming that as executor, your mother has the right to distribute the funds as she sees fit to serve the beneficiary's best interests. They're arguing that you don't need the money, so diverting it to your sisters better serves the spirit of your grandmother's wishes. It's legal nonsense, but they're going to try to fight this. My stomach sank. So what happens now? Now we file with this probate court. This becomes an official legal dispute. It'll take weeks, maybe months to resolve. And Ellie, I need to warn you, your family is going to come at you hard. They're going to try to paint you as greedy and vindictive. They're going to tell everyone who'll listen that you're tearing the family apart over money. Are you prepared for that? Was I prepared? No, but I was doing it anyway. Yes, I said. File the complaint. What I wasn't prepared for was just how vicious they would get. The next morning, I unblocked their numbers for just a moment to see what I'd missed. It was a mistake. 17 missed calls, 34 text messages, and 3 voicemails that made me want to throw my phone across the room. The first voicemail was from my mom and she was sobbing. Ellie, sweetheart, I don't understand why you're doing this. We're family. Family is supposed to stick together, not turn on each other over money. Your grandmother would be so disappointed in you right now. She'd be heartbroken to see what you've become. Please just call me back. We can fix this. We can work this out. I love you, honey. Please don't do this. The second was from my dad, and he was furious. Ellie, you're destroying this family. Your mother is devastated. Your sisters are crying. All because you can't stand the thought of them having something you don't. I raised you better than this. I raised you to be generous, to think of others. Clearly I failed. Don't bother coming to family dinners anymore. You're not welcome until you apologize and drop this ridiculous lawsuit. The third was from Chloe, and it was the one that hurt the most. Ellie, my kids are crying. Mason asked me why Aunt Ellie doesn't love us anymore. What am I supposed to tell him, that you care more about money than you care about your nephew's college fund? Is that the aunt you want to be, the one who cares more about being right than about family? Mom's blood pressure is through the roof because of this. If something happens to her, that's on you. Think about what you're doing. You still have time to stop this before you tear us all apart. I saved all 3 voicemails and sent them to Daniel. Then I blocked their numbers again. My hands were shaking. Mason was 8 years old. They were using their kids as weapons against me. They were blaming me for their choices. But it got worse. That afternoon, Scarlett posted on Instagram a photo of herself crying, her face red and puffy, her eyes swollen. The caption read, "Sending love and light to anyone who's dealing with family conflict right now. Sometimes the people we love most hurt us the deepest. When money becomes more important than blood, when greed poisons love, the whole world feels darker. I'm trying to stay centered and remember that people hurt people. If you're going through something similar, know that you're not alone. Some battles aren't worth winning if you lose your soul in the process. Choose love always. Namaste." The comments poured in. "Stay strong, Scarlett. Family drama is the worst. Some people just can't be happy for others' success. Money really does ruin everything." Her followers were eating it up, giving her sympathy and validation, and none of them knew that she was one of the people trying to steal my inheritance. I screenshot the post and sent it to Daniel. He replied immediately, "This is defamation. She's implying you're greedy and destructive without naming you. Classic passive-aggressive manipulation. Don't respond. Let her dig her own grave. This actually helps our case." That weekend was torture. I stayed in my apartment, curtains drawn, phone off. I ordered food delivery and didn't answer the door when the delivery person knocked, just had them leave it outside. I felt like I was hiding from the world. Maybe I was. On Sunday, Daniel called with news. The probate court has scheduled a mediation session for Wednesday. Both parties have to attend with their lawyers. They're going to try to get you to settle before this becomes a full lawsuit. What should I expect? Your family is going to be there. Your mom, probably your dad, maybe your sisters. They're going to try to make you feel guilty. Their lawyer is going to paint you as unreasonable. Our job is to stay focused on the facts. You are a named beneficiary. Your grandmother's wishes are clear, and your mother is violating her legal duties as executor. That's it. Don't let them draw you into emotional arguments. Wednesday came too fast. I dressed in my most professional outfit again, armor against whatever was coming. Daniel picked me up and we drove to the courthouse together. He gave me a pep talk the whole way. "Remember, you're not doing anything wrong. You're not being greedy. You're not tearing the family apart. They did that when they tried to cheat you. All you're doing is refusing to be cheated. That's not a character flaw. That's self-respect." We walked into the mediation room and there they were, my entire family. My mom looked small and frail, tissues clutched in her hand. My dad looked furious, his arms crossed over his chest. Chloe kept shooting me looks that could kill. Scarlett wouldn't even look at me. And sitting with them was their lawyer, a middle-aged woman in an expensive suit who looked like she ate people like me for breakfast. The mediator, a tired-looking man in his 60s, started the session. "This is a family matter regarding the estate of Malene Hartley. I understand there's a dispute over the distribution of a trust fund. Let's see if we can find a resolution that everyone can live with." Their lawyer went first. She painted a picture of me as a cold-hearted daughter who was attacking her grieving mother. She emphasized how much Chloe and Scarlett needed the money, how I had a stable career and no dependents. She suggested that my grandmother's mention of me being responsible with money implied I didn't need financial help. She made it sound like I was being petty and vindictive. Then it was Daniel's turn. He was surgical. He cited the exact wording of the trust. He pointed out that my grandmother had specifically named all 3 granddaughters and had explicitly stated the money should be divided equally. He noted that, as executor, my mother had a fiduciary duty to follow those instructions, and her deviation from them was legally indefensible. He showed them the screenshots from the group chat, and I watched my mother's face go white. The mediator's expression shifted when he saw those messages. Suddenly, this wasn't about financial need. This was about a family conspiracy to defraud a beneficiary. The mediator turned to my mother. "Mrs. Vance, is it true that you created a group chat to discuss excluding your daughter from this inheritance?" And my mom looked at her lawyer, panicked. The lawyer jumped in. "My client made a decision as executor that she felt served the best interests of all the beneficiaries. By excluding one of them," the mediator's tone was skeptical. Daniel pushed forward. "Not only did they exclude my client, but they deliberately kept this information from her. They planned to lie about the existence of the trust. The group chat messages show clear intent to deceive." My dad finally spoke up, his voice loud in the small room. "Ellie doesn't need this money. She's fine. Her sisters have real needs. This is about doing what's practical." "It's not about need," Daniel said calmly. "It's about honoring the wishes of the deceased. Malene Hartley wanted her money divided equally. That's not a suggestion. That's a legal instruction. The mediation went on for 2 hours. It was brutal. My family took turns trying to make me feel like the villain. Chloe cried about her kids' college funds. Scarlett talked about her yoga studio dream dying. My mom played the frail widow card. My dad accused me of being heartless. I sat there silently, my hands folded in my lap, while Daniel handled everything. Every time one of them tried to address me directly, Daniel would step in. Please direct your comments to me. My client is not here to be emotionally manipulated. Finally, the mediator called for a break. Daniel and I stepped out into the hallway. You're doing great, he told me. Don't let them get to you. They're desperate, and desperate people say awful things. They hate me, I said quietly. My whole family hates me. No, Daniel corrected. They're angry that you won't let them take advantage of you anymore. That's not the same thing. And honestly, Ellie, do you want people in your life who only love you when you're useful to them? That question hit me hard. Did I want that? Had I ever wanted that? Or had I just accepted it because I didn't think I deserved better? When we went back into the mediation room, the mediator had a proposal. I've reviewed the trust documents and the evidence presented. In my professional opinion, Ms. Vance has a strong case. The trust terms are clear. However, litigation will be expensive and time-consuming for everyone involved. I'm proposing a settlement. The trust will be divided equally among the 3 granddaughters as originally specified. In addition, Eleanor Vance will receive $5,000 to cover her legal fees. In exchange, all parties agree not to pursue any further legal action related to this matter. Their lawyer whispered to my family. I could see them arguing. Chloe was shaking her head vigorously. My dad's face was red. But their lawyer was firm. Finally, she turned to the mediator. We agree to the settlement with one condition: Eleanor signs a non-disclosure agreement. She cannot discuss this matter publicly. Daniel looked at me. Your call. I thought about it. They wanted me to stay quiet. They wanted to sweep this under the rug so no one would know what they'd tried to do. But at the same time, did I really want to spend the rest of my life fighting them in court? Did I want this to drag on for months? I'll sign the NDA, I said, with one addition. They have to sign one too. None of them can discuss this publicly either. No more Instagram posts about family drama. No more playing the victim on social media. Daniel negotiated the terms. By the end of the session, we had an agreement. $30,000 to each granddaughter plus $5,000 to me for legal fees. Everyone signs NDAs. The trust would be distributed within 1 week. We all signed the papers. My hand was shaking so badly, I could barely write my name. When it was done, I stood up to leave. My mother reached for my arm. Ellie, sweetheart, can we please talk just for a minute? I looked at her. Really looked at her. The woman who had given birth to me, raised me, taught me to ride a bike and bake cookies. The woman who had also decided I was too successful to deserve my own inheritance. Who had joined a secret group chat to plot behind my back. Who had let me be the family fixer for years, without ever once asking if I needed fixing too. No, I said quietly, we can't. I walked out of that courthouse with Daniel, and I didn't look back. The next week, $35,000 appeared in my bank account. I stared at the number for a long time. It felt like blood money. It felt like freedom. It felt like the price of my family. But I wasn't done. Winning the money was just the first step. Now I needed to win my independence. That evening, I sat down at my computer and wrote an email. The subject line was Notice of Service Termination. I addressed it to all 4 members of my family. I started with a list. Every single thing I had ever done for them over the past 10 years. Tax returns for my dad, 37 of them, if you counted federal, state, and quarterly estimates. Tech support for my mom, hundreds of hours easily. Financial aid forms for Chloe, 16 separate applications over 6 years. Tax preparation for Scarlett, 4 years of increasingly complex returns as her income grew. Photo editing software installation password. Resets, budget creation, debt. Management advice, insurance claim. Filing, retirement account management. I listed everything. Then I wrote, these services, conservatively valued at market rates, represent approximately $85,000 of unpaid professional labor over the past decade. I provided them willingly because I loved you and wanted to help. However, recent events have made it clear that my contributions have been taken for granted and that I am not valued as a member of this family beyond my utility. Effective immediately, I am terminating all volunteer services. I then provided detailed instructions for how they could manage everything going forward. For my dad, I listed his Vanguard account information, the IRS contact number, and a recommendation for a local CPA. For my mom, I gave her tech support alternatives and reminded her that most banks have customer service lines. For Chloe, I explained the FAFSA process in detail and told her to contact her children's school counselors for help. For Scarlett, I gave her the names of 3 tax attorneys and strongly advised her to hire one immediately before her IRS problems got worse. I ended with, I wish you all the best. I hope you find the help you need from qualified professionals who you will actually compensate for their time and expertise. I read through the email 3 times, checking for any trace of emotion or cruelty. It was purely informational, clinical, professional. Then I hit send. Then I blocked all of their email addresses. Then I turned off my phone. I poured myself a glass of wine. The good stuff I'd been saving for a special occasion. This felt like a special occasion. The death of one life and the birth of another. I sat on my couch and cried, but they weren't sad tears. They were release. Grief for what I'd thought I had, and relief that I didn't have to pretend anymore. The next morning, I woke up feeling lighter than I had in years. I made myself breakfast, a real one, with eggs and toast and fresh berries, not just grabbing a granola bar on my way out the door. I sat at my kitchen table and ate slowly, savoring the quiet. No one was going to call me today with an emergency. No one was going to need something fixed. I was free. Then I opened my laptop and started researching photography studios. With $35,000, I could afford to take the leap I'd been dreaming about for years. I could leave corporate accounting behind and build something that was actually mine. Over the next few weeks, I gave my notice at the accounting firm. My boss was shocked. Ellie, you're on track for partner. Why would you leave now? Because I don't want to be a partner, I said. I want to be a photographer. He looked at me like I'd lost my mind. Maybe I had. But it felt like the best kind of crazy. I found a studio space in Fremont. Small but perfect, with huge windows and exposed brick walls. I signed the lease and felt my heart race with equal parts terror and excitement. I spent the next month setting up, buying equipment, building a website, reaching out to old college friends who might need professional photos. I worked 14-hour days and loved every second of it. 3 months after I opened, I was barely breaking even, but I was happy. Actually happy for the first time in years. I was building something that was mine. Something no one could take away from me or take for granted. My family tried to reach me a few times. I saw the email notifications before I deleted them, subject lines like, "Can we talk?" and "Please, Ellie." I deleted them all without reading them. There was nothing left to say. 6 months in business was picking up. I'd shot 3 weddings, several corporate events, and a series of portraits for a local magazine. The magazine asked for an interview about my career change from accounting to photography. I agreed. The article came out in November, almost exactly a year after my grandmother's funeral. 40 under 40 young entrepreneurs making their mark. There was a full-page photo of me in my studio, holding my camera, smiling genuinely for maybe the first time in years. The quote they used as a pull quote was, "Sometimes you have to bet on yourself when no one else will." Daniel brought me a copy of the magazine to celebrate. We drank champagne from paper cups in my studio. "You did it," he said. "You actually did it." "I couldn't have without you," I told him. "No," he said firmly. "I just held the door open. You're the one who walked through it." That night alone in my studio, I got a text from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I opened it. "Ellie, this is Mom. I got a new phone and number. I know you've been avoiding us and I understand why. But it's been almost a year. I miss you. We all miss you. Can we please talk? Love, Mom." I stared at the message for a long time. Part of me wanted to respond. Part of me missed them too, despite everything. But then I thought about the group chat, about Inner Circle Vance, about how easily they had decided I didn't matter. I thought about Mason crying weaponized against me. I thought about Scarlett's Instagram post painting herself as the victim. I thought about my dad telling me I wasn't welcome at family dinners anymore. And I thought about my grandmother's voice, "Pay attention to what people do, not what they say they'll do." They were sorry now because I'd stood up for myself. They missed me now because I wasn't there to fix their problems anymore. But if I went back, would anything really change? Or would we just fall into the same patterns with me giving and them taking until the next crisis? Revealed that I still didn't matter to them as much as I mattered to myself. I deleted the message without responding. I turned off my phone. And I went back to editing the photos I'd taken that day. Photos of a young woman standing proudly in front of her new bookstore. Arms crossed, keys in hand. the picture of someone who'd bet on herself and won. 2 weeks later, another message from my mom's number. Ellie, please, it's been a year. Can we start over? I picked up my phone. I typed a response. I deleted it. I typed another one. Deleted that too. Finally, I just turned off my phone and went back to work. Maybe someday I would be ready to have a relationship with my family again. But it would have to be on my terms. It would have to be a relationship where I was valued for who I was, not what I could do for them. And I wasn't sure they were capable of that. For now, I had my studio, I had my work, I had my freedom. I had learned the most important lesson my grandmother ever taught me: you teach people how to treat you. For years, I had taught my family that I would accept crumbs while they took the whole cake, that I would show up for them while they excluded me, that I would keep giving while they kept taking. I had finally taught them something different. I had taught them that I had value, that I deserved respect, that I was not a tool to be used and discarded. And if they couldn't learn that lesson well, that was their loss, not mine. I looked at the photo I was editing on my computer screen. It was from a shoot I had done the day before, a portrait of a young woman entrepreneur standing in front of her new bookstore. She was beaming with pride, her arms crossed confidently, the keys to her shop dangling from her hand. She reminded me of myself, someone who had bet everything on a dream and won. I saved the file and closed my laptop. Then I grabbed my camera and walked out onto the street. The city was alive with evening light, and I wanted to capture it. This was my life now. Not perfect, not without scars, but entirely, completely mine. And that was worth more than any inheritance could ever be. Have you ever had to choose between family loyalty and self-respect? Have you ever been the one everyone relies on, but no one appreciates? What would you have done in my situation? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories about finding your worth and taking back your power. Sometimes the people who are supposed to love you the most are the ones who take you for granted the most. And sometimes the best thing you can do is walk away and build something beautiful without them.